As I told you, I'm professor of in electrical and computer engineering at Duke. I'm also a religious advisor to the Hindu Society of North Carolina. That's this logo of Hindu Society of North Carolina. I've been with the Hindu Society since the beginning in various roles. Current role is they created a new position, Hindu religious advisor for me. And then I'm also part of Hindu Speakers Bureau that is attempting to do an organization throughout the United States. So there is a bureau you can go to if you want. Some school wants speaker, they will find a speaker for you. And they asked me to record the lecture. I don't know whether it will work. We'll see. Okay. All right. So let me start with two greetings, two Hindu greetings. First one is Namaste. Can you all say Namaste? So what does that mean? So first of all, this is how you do Namaste, right? And it is a Sanskrit word. Sanskrit is the language of the scriptures. And by some accounts, it is the mother of all languages. And Sanskrit has this way of putting words together into a larger word. And when you want to understand that, you separate. So the word here, Namaste, is two words, Namaha and Te. And together they become Namaste. And Namaha means I bow down, and Te means to you. So I bow down to you, or I salute you. That's the simple meaning. But the deeper meaning is that divinity within me salutes the divinity within you. So the belief is that I am not the body, not the mind, not the intellect. I am the Atman. The simplest translation of Atman is soul, probably not good one. But I am not the body. Body keeps changing, mind keeps changing. The not constant is the Atman. And Atman within me is greeting Atman within you. That's the meaning of Namaste. All right? Now, can you all see? Because I don't know where to stand. If I...
We can see.
Pardon?
Yeah, everyone should be able to see.
Because I could become a tiny one. So the belief is that there is divinity within all beings. And I found this very interesting YouTube clip by Pastor Eddie Smith Sr. He takes the word Namaste and the whole sermon is on that word. And I tried in the other class, so I won't be able to display it, play it for you. But this is the clip, and it's beautiful. But I was not able to get it going in the last class, so I'm sure I will not be able to do it here either. So yeah, it moves to the next slide rather than, I don't know why. I'm a computer engineering professor, but you know that, right? If you know how to do it, then do it. Otherwise, you teach, right? I'm not that bad, but I'm a theoretician. Yes. There's a question? No. Feel free to ask questions. The second greeting that I want to talk to you about is Hari Om. So whenever I go to the temple, that's the greeting I use. And so in our community, the kids will call older people uncle, older man uncle. So some people call me Hari Om uncle because they don't want to remember my name because I'm known as Hari Om, guy who says Hari Om, right? So what is this Hari Om? The word Hari, it's just two words, right? Hari and Om. Word Hari is another name for Vishnu, and we'll talk about Vishnu in a minute. And word Vishnu is a definition. Definition of word Vishnu is that which pervades each and every atom of the universe. That which is the essence of each and every atom of the universe. So therefore, Hari, which is the same as Vishnu, tells me that God is immanent. Immanent means all-pervading, omnipresent. So Hari, just saying Hari, I'm saying God is everywhere. And then Om signifies the notion of God that is called Brahman, the changeless transcendental reality. So the idea is that when the universe is there, God is there everywhere. But when the universe is not there, God is still there. That notion of God is transcendental notion or Brahman. So by saying Hari Om, I'm saying the essence of Hinduism. Everything else is commentary. That God is everywhere and God is beyond everywhere. God is immanent and God is transcendent. This is the essence. Everything else is just building up on that or trying to illustrate that, trying to make you understand that. Are you with me? Immanent, I-M-M-A-N-E-N-T, immanent, and so Hari Om thus says that God is both immanent, all-pervading, omnipresent, everywhere, and transcendental. That is beyond senses, beyond mind, beyond intellect. So far, so good. I can end at this point and everything is done, but I'll illustrate some more, okay? Tell you some more. So Om is the symbol for Hinduism, much like the cross is the symbol for Christianity, right? And this is how you write it in Sanskrit or Hindi and so on. It is, as I mentioned already, it is indicating Brahman. And Brahman is the changeless transcendental reality or truth with a capital T. The notion of God in some sense in Hinduism. And it is also the primordial sound. When the universe got created, the first sound is Om. And I want to point out that Brahman is neither male or female gender, it is neuter gender. Because at that level, it doesn't make sense to talk about male or female. All prayers start with Om. Because prayer is nothing but conversation with God, right? And those who do yoga or meditation are used to chanting Om. Most of the sessions will start chanting Om 3 times. Sometimes, of course, this is the original way to write it. In English, either you write it as OM or AUM. And there are a lot of significance of AUM, 3 states of consciousness it represents and so on, but not as OHM. Some people mistakenly write it as OHM. And why not as OHM? Because there is something called Ohm's law in electrical engineering, and it is named after Mr. Ohm or Dr. Ohm. You might learn it later in, I don't know which class, physics or something?
Probably. That'd be a problem.
Current, voltage, and resistance are related. That's Ohm's law, okay? So make sure that when you say Ohm, it's either OM or AUM or even better this one, okay? It is the oldest living religion. It originated in the Indian subcontinent and it is the 3rd largest religion in the world today, after Christianity and Islam. If you include atheism, then it's fourth. And as I already mentioned, one of the fundamental tenets is God is everywhere. Therefore, Hindus revere the universe, the planets, the rivers, the trees, the ocean, and all beings. The real name of this, if you look at the scriptures of Hinduism, the word Hindu does not occur there. The real name is called Sanatan Dharma. And the reason for the word Hindu is that when the Greeks and Iranians or Persians came to India, they saw a river called Sindhu in the northwestern subcontinent, now in Pakistan. And people living around the river Sindhu were called Hindus by them. That's where the word Hindu comes from. And when the Britishers came, they couldn't pronounce Hindus either. So they called the river Indus. And India, the word came from there. So in reality, there is no India, there is no Hinduism. Hinduism really is Sanatan Dharma, and India is really Bharat. So I've already said that. So the word, the real name is Sanatan Dharma, right? So word Sanatan literally means eternal. So the religion is believed to have started with the world and will end with the world. Word dharma is a very, very complex. There are many, many Sanskrit words that do not have an equivalent English translation. So dharma is 33 different, you have to use 33 different translations to give it full meaning in English. But in the current context, it can be treated as religion, although that's a very limited meaning. This is one of the nice meanings, the values of life that sustains us, both individuals and the universe. Okay, some fast facts about Hinduism. You're all 10th graders?
Goes from 9th grade to seniors. So it's every grade possible.
Okay. You know that my first lecture on Hinduism was when my older daughter Kavita was, I believe, in Riverside High School in 10th grade. And the teacher kept saying, I wish I knew more about Hinduism so that I can give you more than what the text says. And my daughter said, my father knows something about it. So I was volunteered by her, and she was the only Indian Hindu in the class, of course. Like here, there's nobody, maybe one, I'm not sure. And so I was a little worried, I don't know much. And so I studied up a lot. This is 1992 or something in that time frame. Since then, I've given a lot of talks. So now I feel very comfortable. So this is one of the oldest living religion. And it gave birth to at least two other religions, Buddhism and Sikhism. Buddha was a Hindu. And Buddha is considered one of the great Hindu saints or even incarnation. So Hinduism doesn't think of Buddhism as separate from Hinduism. Some Buddhists think of them as separate from Hinduism. Similarly, Sikhism is also very much revered within Hinduism. And there is no founder of Hinduism. There is no date at which it was founded. What are the beliefs? Very quickly. The first is already mentioned, and I keep repeating that. The divine, the notion of God, is at once transcendent and immanent. That is the fundamental. That is the key aspect of it. Everything else is just building up on it, commentary. And immanence means, so one of the Swami is a very learned, celibate being generally. And so one of the Swamis made these very nice comments that it's not a question of many gods versus one God. Hinduism position is that there is nothing else but God. There is only God. All this world is nothing but God. So the eventual goal of spiritual advancement for a Hindu is to get to the stage where you look at anything on any being, you see nothing but God. God is in me, but God is in you as well. But now to meditate on this abstract concept in some sense is very hard. And therefore, many different forms have evolved through which you meditate on the ultimate. So formless is therefore worshipped in and through many different forms. Scriptures I'll get to in a few minutes, so I'll skip that sentence here. But somebody once asked a Hindu that, what is your book? Well, the answer is we have a library, not just a book, right? And I'll also get to these two important notions of karma and reincarnation. You have probably heard in popular literature, but I'll give you my interpretation of it very quickly. And you can see that the notion of divine everywhere is some examples from the Vedas. There is this notion of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The world is one single family. We are all one family. And it doesn't say only Hindus or only Indians or anything like that. World. Similarly, there is a famous saying in the Rig Veda, one of the oldest books, Ekam Sat Vipraha Baudha Vadanti. Truth, meaning God is one, but paths to reach are many, or descriptions of that God are many. And we will also get to, there are 4 different paths to get to the ultimate, and they're called yogas. Knowledge or Jnana Yoga, path of knowledge, path of action, selfless action called Karma Yoga, path of devotion or Bhakti Yoga, or path of meditation or Raj Yoga. The word yoga has been very narrow interpretation taken in this Western world. It's a very, very broad concept. Yoga literally means to join the individual to the supreme. That's what yoga means. Now, there have been many contributions of Hinduism. Yoga and meditation is certainly one not necessarily recognized, but you start with Om, right? So that immediately tells you it's Hinduism. Law of karma is, I believe, very good, very important contribution. But mathematically, scientifically, there are many more. All of us use positional notation, right? A decimal number system, the tens position, hundreds position, etc. Prior to that, there are Roman numerals, which are very difficult to have larger numbers there, right? So these numerals were called Arabic numerals earlier because Arab traders brought it to the West. But then they found out that they got it from India, from Hindu sages. So now it is very commonly referred to as Hindu-Arabic numerals, the number system that we use. And 0 is a part of that. You need 0 in order to be able to complete the number system. So the number system we have is due to my ancestors. And this is described in one of the BBC sites, if you like. I mentioned that there are multiple ways to reach the ultimate, and this is pictorial view of that. Path of devotion, also called Bhakti Yoga, path of meditation, which is called Raj Yoga. So you might say Buddhism has adopted this path. In my limited view, understanding, Christianity and Islam have adopted this path. Again, my limited understanding, Confucius has adopted this path. And Hinduism allows all possibilities. Depending on your particular temperament, particular situation, you may choose one or you may mix them. This is not exclusive. There is another slide that I will skip that describes a little more detail of these four paths. But the thing I want to concentrate on is the notion of God that we started with, but let's expand on that. People get confused and mistakenly call it polytheism. There are many gods. No. There is one supreme being, which is called Brahman, symbolized by Om. But we know that anything that is created will have to have a creator, will have to be preserved, and will have eventually die, will be dissolved. So these three different cosmic acts, tasks, are symbolized by three different beings. They are not separate from each other. They are aspects of the same being, but they are conceptualized as three separate deities: Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And this is sometimes called Hindu Trinity or Tridev. I forget that this screen is sensitive. And so Brahma is the creator, and you can also say generator, therefore G. Vishnu is the preserver or the operator for O. And Shiva is the dissolver for D. So we have G-O-D. And these are not separate from each other. Over and over again, scriptures tell me they're not separate from each other. And to give you an example, if I think of myself, when I go home, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather. When I go to my parents' home, I'm a son. When I go to the office, I'm a professor. When I'm dealing with a graduate student doing PhD with me, I'm a research advisor. I'm the same being, but I have different names depending on, or different conceptualizations depending on what my role is. Exactly the same way, they're not different beings. They are different aspects of the same being. And there are very nice stories and books and all that on them. And this is Brahma, this is Vishnu, and this is Shiva. So what are the fundamental doctrines? I've talked about some of them, but let me go a little bit deeper. So first, I keep emphasizing this. A lot of people mistakenly, including your textbook, probably will call Hinduism polytheism. Well, from what I described to you, when I say all-pervading, immanent, that is what is called pantheism in the technical word. But when you say God is not just immanent, but also transcendent, then it's called pantheism, technically. So if I were to describe Hinduism from that perspective, I would say pantheism. But there are many different darshanas or philosophies within Hinduism, and one of which is called absolute monism. So one way to say is that you cannot really pigeonhole Hinduism into these neat categories. It's people who don't understand call it polytheism. And it's fancy for them because all the polytheistic religions have been destroyed. So this is to be destroyed as well. And put it in a museum, then appreciate it, right? But last week, I came up with a very nice phrase for what I consider Hinduism to be. It's called pluriform monotheism. and most of you haven't heard it probably. It's a fairly recent phrase, but I hit upon it recently. And the meaning is one God worshipped in many forms, which is exactly what I'm describing to you. Pluriform monotheism. And I give you a reference to it. Britannica Encyclopedia. I got a reference from a book. Somebody talked about a book. I went to that book, and that book references this one. And there is a paragraph explaining what that means. It's exactly what I think Hinduism is. So far, so good. I like it. You know, you have a tendency to nod your head. Similarly, I like it when somebody laughs at my jokes. Professor will give you a better grade. Teacher will give you a better grade if you laugh at the jokes, even if they are poor jokes. Okay, remember that. And if you have my first grandchild laughs at my jokes. None of the other three do. Vedas are the fundamental scriptural authority. And there are 4 books of the Vedas. And the third book was given to my ancestors to preserve, learn, protect, and pass on. That's why I'm a Trivedi. 3 is 3. And Vedi means the one who knows Vedas, one who knows the third Veda. Let's keep that. So doctrine of karma we'll talk about, doctrine of reincarnation we'll talk about. But in the context of this polytheism and idolatry and so on, I came across this beautiful agreement that took place between the rabbinate of Israel and some of the gurus from India. And who is the one who can read loudest, talk loudest in this class? Somebody want to volunteer to read?
Me.
Okay. Read.
Yes.
It is recognized that one supreme being, both in its formless and manifest aspects, has been worshipped by Hindus over the millennia. This does not mean that Hindus worship gods and idols. The Hindus relate to only the one supreme being when she prays to a particular manifestation.
To me, this is a fantastic development. And if more understanding of this is transmitted, then a lot of strife will reduce. It is not well known, but it is, I'm quoting the truth. This is the 2 sets of meetings took place between these large 2 bodies, and they came up with this conclusion. So expanding further on the notion of God, because in some sense, that's the thing to talk about here, right? So I already talked about Brahman, right? Brahman is the transcendental notion of God, that which is never not there, that which will never not be. So when the universe is there, Brahman is there. When the universe is not there, Brahman is still there. Are you with me? And the symbol of that is Om. When you say Om, you are thinking of Brahman. Brahman is neutral gender. It doesn't make sense to say God is male or female. But when the universe is there, Brahman, so there are 2 models of creation. Sometimes I get into sidetracks, so that's okay, right? So one is a potter making a pot, right? Potter is different from the clay, material cause and the efficient cause. Water is the efficient cause, and clay is the material cause. The second model of creation is a spider making a web. Are you with me? Not the www, but the real web, right? Spider makes the web from is the efficient cause as well as the material cause, because material comes from the spider, isn't it? The saliva. Are you with me? So spider is both the material cause and the efficient cause. In the Hindu view, Brahman is both the material cause and the efficient cause. And Brahman is therefore in the universe, not separate from the universe, not somebody sitting up there in some sky. And that notion of Brahman then is called Ishwar. So transcendental becomes immanent. Are you with me? This is called Nirgun, meaning formless, without attributes. This is Sagun, attributes, with attributes. Now, remember that to create, you need creator, preserver, and dissolver. They are not separate from each other. They are three aspects of the same thing. And in order to create, you need knowledge. The goddess of knowledge is called Saraswati, is conceptualized as the consort of Brahma. They are not separate from each other, it's Brahma's power. Similarly, to preserve, you need wealth. So goddess of wealth is Lakshmi, consort of Vishnu. They are not separate from each other. But it's useful to think of them as separate. In order to die properly, you need spiritual knowledge. So Parvati is the goddess of spiritual knowledge. And furthermore, Vishnu incarnates on this earth when the need arises. And the word is avatar, Dash avatar, Dash meaning 10, avatar means incarnation. The word avatar, a lot of you are familiar with, right? Except you pronounce differently. How do you say it? The movie Avatar, right? How do you say it? It's wrong. Avatar is the right way. It's a Sanskrit word and comes from here, okay? 10 incarnations of Vishnu. The first one is in the form of a fish, Matsya. Second one is in the form of a tortoise. Third one is in the form of a boar. Then the half man, half lion. Then man with axe, dwarf man, man with axe, man with bow and arrow, perfect man, and realized man. So Buddha is an incarnation of Vishnu. Buddha is not separate from Hinduism. He is one of the incarnations of Vishnu. And Kalki is an awaited one. 10th one is awaited. Do you notice evolution of sorts? Some people see evolution in there. Any comments, questions? Now this is loaded stuff, right? I'm happy to answer questions. Yes, ma'am. Can you speak up? I'm hard of hearing. Fish. No, which one? Formo. Tortoise. Turtle. The two words, right? Tortoise and turtle. I don't know whether they're different or not. Now let's skip this. So scriptures are divided into two groups. As I said, we have a library, and I have actually physically a big library at my home that I don't know whether I'll be able to ever read even 10% of what I have. So the Shruti are the primary scriptures, and they consist of what are called Vedas, as I mentioned, and there are 4 Vedas: Rig, Yajur. Rig, Yajur, Sam, and Atharva. So my ancestors were given Sam Veda. And each Veda has 4 parts. The last part is called Upanishads. The Upanishads contain the essence of Hindu philosophy. And there are many Upanishads. And there are some movies based on Upanishads. One movie, Razor's Edge, the book as well as the movie is based on one of the Upanishads. Razor's Edge. Somerset Maugham. Somerset Maugham was the author. Have you heard of Somerset Maugham? I think British author, if I'm not mistaken. The Shruti is that which is heard. Heard by whom? By the exalted sages in their meditations. They heard these mantras, and these mantras form Vedas. You heard mantra is a word, you know the mantra, right? All the mantras heard by the rishis in their meditations are put together in the Vedas. That's why they're Shrutis, they're heard. And they are apurusha, no author. These are given by God in some sense during their meditations. Whereas the Smritis are their authors. So these are man-made books, these are not. And there are many books here. There's large number of Puranas. There are two large epics, Mahabharata and Ramayana. Mahabharata at one point was the largest book in the world. Then there is Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita has a very high status. And there is Yoga Sutra. So the theory behind yoga and meditation is in Yoga Sutra. That's a beautiful book. This is also a beautiful book. I wanted to say something about this. Yeah. There's a movie with Bhagavad Gita as a basis. Legend of Beggar Vance. With Will Smith and Matt Damon. Look it up. Legend of Beggar Vance. And Oppenheimer was an ardent student of Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads. And he quoted Bhagavad Gita when the first test of the atomic weapon took place. There's a movie that Oppenheimer movie talks about it. Unfortunately, they show Bhagavad Gita at the time of a sex scene for no reason at all. It's okay to insult Hinduism. Nobody will bother you, right? We don't like it, but what do you do? I don't know. And there are some quotes from some well-known people. How many of you heard Ralph Waldo Emerson or Henry David Thoreau? Who is a reader, good reader here? Somebody heard? Your turn now.
For me to read the book.
Why not?
It is sublime as night in the breathless ocean. It contains every religious sense, all the great grand epics which visit in turn each noble place.
So he's describing Bhagavad Gita. You can skip Gandhi because Gandhi will like Bhagavad Gita, obviously, right?
Well, I read love.
Pardon? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
In the morning I bathed my intellect in stupendous and cosmogonal philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, since whose composition years of the gods have elapsed, in comparison with which our modern world in puny tribute.
And it's a beautiful book and lots of translations of all kinds in many languages and so on. Okay, now we talked about law of karma, right? So let's delve a little bit into it. My understanding. I should preface all this by my understanding of Hinduism. I'm no expert, but I've explored it a little bit, and this is what I understand, right? Law of karma. So the simple idea is that whenever you do any action, there is going to be a reaction. As you sow, so you reap, right? Only thing is that the reaction, by the way, in the literature, karma has two meanings. One is the action and the other is result of the action. So that's unfortunate, but remember that it has two meanings. Related, but different. But the idea simply is that any action will have a reaction or result. The result may be immediate. Some cases, right? You can realize that sometimes it's immediate. Sometimes it is later in life. And what the law of karma says, it can be in subsequent lives. So the time scale is rather large, rather long. So time scale is very long. And those actions which have not bore fruits yet, unfructified karmas, they are the ones that give rise to next life. Reincarnation is connected to the notion of karma. And the eventual goal for all of us is to reach a stage where you exhaust all karmas. And that stage is called moksha or liberation. And what does it mean, moksha or liberation? In two ideas. One is that when you actually see God everywhere, When you look at you, I see, what's your name?
Bryce.
Bryce, I see Bryson, all right, but I see God within, not just his outer appearance. Everywhere I look, I see God. That is one aspect of moksha. And second aspect is when I carry out an action, there is no ego, no notion of I did it. No notion of I did it. I am simply an instrument of the divine. These two, when you reach that stage, that's called moksha. And then there is no more results of action. Results don't cling to you. So no new karmas are created, karma phalas, results of action are created. That is the stage called moksha. And the notion of karma is not to be taken as a destiny, but you make your own future. The idea is that by actions that you carry out now, you make your own future. You cannot wipe out what you have done in the past, but you can create positive future for you. That's the idea of law of karma. And so one normally feels trapped into this. You're born, you forget your real nature, which is divine, and you get trapped in the material reality, and therefore you create more karmas and you keep getting born again and again. And the way out is moksha, where you get released from this cycle of birth and death. So far, so good. Now, as I mentioned to you, Yoga Sutra is a very important text, and it talks about 8 limbs of yoga. So Yoga Sutra talks about 8 limbs, and the ones that are associated with yoga in the West are these 2. Asana, as you might say, right? Asana, postures, and pranayama, the breathing exercises. But they are only 3rd and 4th step in the overall sequence. Yam and niyam are, I will talk about in a minute. They are the observances and restraints, the preparation, if you will, before you get into yoga. And then last 3 stages are really meditation. So yoga and meditation being considered separate is very limited understanding. This is all yoga. And the yam and niyam put together are 10 of them. And so somebody once asked one of the Hindu guys that we have 10 commandments. What do you have? So he said, we have 10 commitments. And so 10 commitments are 5 yamas from that 8 limbs yoga and 5 niyamas. These are all being good person. So unless you are a really good person, doing yoga asanas is not going to help you. Doing meditation isn't going to help you. And we have the rituals and worships, etc. What I want to point out is that there are 16 rites of passage, if you will, in the Hindu literature. The last is the funeral, of course. 13th is the wedding. So between wedding and funeral, there's not that much to do in between, I suppose. And some people think being married is like dying already or something. And I have officiated as a priest at 10 weddings and I don't know, maybe similar number of funerals. There was a time when we didn't have any official priests, so people like me masqueraded as doing that. And out of the 10 weddings I have conducted, 9 are still intact. 1 experienced divorce, unfortunately. And most of them were my daughter's friends. who said, no, no, this uncle is going to do the wedding for me. All right. So I learned and did it. Major festivals, Deepavali is one of them, Festival of Lights. And for last few years, White House has also celebrated Deepavali, as well as I think governors mentioned here. Holi is the festival of colors. These are two getting to be known among people here. Then there is Janmashtami, the birthday of Krishna. There is Mahashivratri, the wedding day of Shiva. That's coming up next week. I think 5th March. Navaratri, 9 nights of worshipping the goddess, and many, many more. I want to then end with Hindus do not condemn other faiths. We do not proselytize. There are some exceptions, but generally don't proselytize. Do not lay exclusive claims to salvation, liberation, moksha. There are many ways to get there. This is another very interesting thing I want to say. People often say we should have religious tolerance, right? Is that true? But I say that's not enough. Why? Let me illustrate. What is your name?
Brett.
What?
Brett.
Brett. How do you spell it?
BROOK.
Brooke. I see. I'm hard of hearing. Brooke, and what is your name?
Haley.
Haley. Are you friends? Yes. Now, would you ever say that you tolerate Haley? Because what would it mean if you say that?
Like
Somehow I have a
accept-
breadth of mind to accept. So similarly, when I say I have religious tolerance against other religions, that's exactly what you're saying. That I know they're wrong, but I have the breadth of mind to say it's okay, you know. So tolerance is only first step. What you want to get to is acceptance. That others are okay. They're fine. I accept them, their view of worshipping, their view of God or whatever, their way of. So, but most people still only talk about religious tolerance. Tell them tolerance is not enough. Tolerance is bad. Right? Are you following? And the few other things I will skip. But what I will do is I will end up with a prayer. And I'll sing it for you if you like, okay? In Sanskrit. And this is the motto of our temple. So all the newsletters go out with this particular prayer. So remember, prayer always starts with Om, right? Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Who wants to read the meaning? You mean designated, right?
May all be happy, all be free from illness, may all see what is auspicious, may no one suffer, only peace, peace, peace.
Notice that the word survey, meaning all, there is no condition that all those are Hindus or all those who believe like me or all those are Indians or brown or whatever, nothing. Survey, all, they all here. So this is the nature of the faith, that all, no condition, no condition. Also notice that Shanti is peace. And you say peace 3 times. Shanti, shalom, right? Shalom in some languages. You say 3 times. Why? Because I like number 3, Trivedi. No. There are 3 types of disturbances to yourself. One type of disturbance is from the natural forces, tsunami or heavy rain or snowfall, etc., right? Second type of disturbance is from other people, your friends or your husband, wife, spouse, whatever, right? And third type of disturbance is from within. So when I'm asking for peace from all these three types of disturbances. So actually, formally, this is supposed to be the loudest, this is medium, and this is supposed to be very almost silent. With that, I will end.